Good day, everyone. My name is Chloe Tan, and I'm the website content writer at Healy Consultants based in Singapore. So today I'm here with my coworker Apurv Trivedi. He's one of our client relationship officers in our Dubai office in the UAE. Previously, we talked about Jassar and Madagascar engagements, and that was exciting. Today, he's going to talk about a DMCC deregistration engagement. Hi, Apurv. How are you today?
Hi, Chloe. I'm fine. How are you doing?
Good, good. So today we're gonna talk about DMCC deregistration engagement, right? Could you give me a brief summary about it and like what sort of business it was the client involved in and what was some of the goals they wanted us to meet?
Sure, absolutely. So this is for a client which has been a very loyal Healy Consultants client for some time,
Mm,
and he had an existing DMCC business which was running, which we had helped him set up earlier, but due to the requirements of UAE corporate banks, wherein they require for almost most functions, they require a face-to-face meeting. If you want to add a signatory, if you want to remove a signatory, if you want to
mm,
do administrative functions, UAE banks typically prefer a face-to-face communion.
mm,
And the client was finding it difficult because the client was actually based in Prague, Czech Republic, and it was difficult for him to operate his business in a convenient fashion with this requirement. And
mm,
we had a call with the client. We understood what he was facing. And what we did is what we recommended him was to open maybe a Delaware company with a US bank account because US banking is more convenient when you are not physically present in US rather than in UAE. So that was the recommendation we gave him. And we set up the Delaware company. We opened the account. He functioned the online banking. Everything was very convenient to him. So after about a month or two of the US operation being fully functional, he came back to us. He said he no longer has any utility for the DMCC company. And
mm,
the DMCC company in itself is, it's a costly proposition in terms of maintenance of the company because the license cost is high. There is a flexi desk or a physical office that you need to lease. So he wanted us to terminate this engagement, terminate this entity, and liquidate everything that was there for his DMCC business. And
mm.
that was the crux of the engagement here.
Okay. Thanks. What was like the business though? Like the client that what did the client do?
So the client was actually involved in oil and gas logistics industry. He used to do consulting for oil and gas pipelines and where to set them up and how to set them up. And he used to do feasibility studies for their clients, and he had big clients in all parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So he was mostly through his own set of service providers who he subcontracted for different facets, and he brought in the major expertise with his experience of almost 20 years into the industry.
I see. That's pretty cool. So, was the pandemic like also a factor into uh, how everything played out? Like how it was harder for him to have yeah, was it harder? Was it a challenge?
Oh, absolutely, I think that was the root cause which initially started the problems with him and the UAE banks because when the UAE banks wanted him to travel, he couldn't because of the lockdown restrictions or primarily the requirements of quarantine and 14-day quarantine in UAE or back in Europe. So that's how he felt that this is maybe not the most optimized solution for him. He needs to be with a bank which is much more friendly in terms of non-presence or remote working.
Definitely. Could you tell me more about how the deregistration, like the process, how it worked?
Yeah, so the DMCC deregistration process is straightforward, but it has a lot of steps that come into it.
Mm,
So the first thing that you need to do is you need to appoint liquidator. A liquidator is principally a DMCC recognized accountant or accountancy firm that evaluates if the company can be liquidated, what category of liquidation will the company fall into, depending on the assets, depending on the business activity, depending on if the company has any liabilities, so on and so forth. So we first appointed a liquidator who recommended us a category of liquidation to go forward with. And then we went ahead with the liquidation steps for that, through which we had to declare that the company had no assets, no liabilities to any third parties. It was a clean slate. We were also advised to close the bank account. Once the bank account was closed, we had to publish it on the DMCC website that this company was being closed for a period of about 3 weeks, so that DMCC ensures that it has been published and there are no third-party creditors that have any liabilities with the company, and so on and so forth. And eventually, we had to submit a liquidation report, which summarizes what the company's functions have been from the date of incorporation to the date of liquidation. And it was a comprehensive report that we prepared for the client and eventually submitted to DMCC. We've just done it recently, so it's going to take about 2 to 3 weeks now for the DMCC to issue us a certificate of liquidation, and then the company would be struck off.
I see. So how long did this whole process take? It sounds like there's a lot of steps, but it's pretty straightforward too.
Yeah, so it's straightforward. It's just it takes around 6 to 8 weeks to get a company deregistered if everything goes smoothly in terms of documentation provision. The one challenge that comes in, and which we faced in this engagement also, was for a UAE bank account to be closed. You again need to visit the bank. You have a physical meeting with the bank. You sign the documents in presence of the bank managers that you're closing the account. If the company has multiple signatories, then there has to be a power of attorney that has to be given out, which allows the signatory to singly close the account. So that's one challenge associated with this engagement.
I see. Were there other challenges that you faced, or was it just this one?
Not other challenges that we faced with this engagement in particular, but what other clients could face is preparation of their audited financials. So all DMCC companies have that requirement that they need to submit their financial statements, get them audited, even though there is no taxation in UAE, but this is a requirement of the DMCC. So if some clients do not have that prepared, or have not done that efficiently in the past, then it could become a big challenge, especially when it comes to the preparation of the liquidation report, because everything has to be mapped from the start. So that's one challenge that comes in. But for this particular client, that was not a challenge, because we have, like I said, we'd been managing this company for a long time, and we had done everything from ground up for this. So because he was Healy Consultants client since the start, it was very easy for us to corroborate and put together all details for him.
I see. So with this entire engagement, were there any like highlights and key takeaways for you?
I would say the key takeaway was, the flexibility that DMCC offered us, re-establishing themselves as the best free zone. I mean, the client was facing some challenges with UAE banks, but DMCC as a free zone authority, they were very understanding. They laid out all the requirements very transparently, had a discussion with the client to understand what was the reason why they wanted to close the company, and so on and so forth. So the highlight was how well DMCC procedures are defined, and how easily things can be done with DMCC. So that's actually a big pro for DMCC. Though if you look at it, it's ironical that the client was closing the company, but even then DMCC authority were very, very understanding and supportive.
That's really good to know. Thank you. Well, thank you for your time today. I'm really looking forward to the next podcast with you. That's always like you always know what you're doing, and that's a really good thing that for our company. Thank you. I approve.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Chloe. Thank you for your time. You have a good day.
Have a good day.